From the City of Angels, you are listening to the James Salazar Media Podcast. On today's episode, we're going to talk about God and the universe. So let me strike the music, and I'll meet you on the other side.
Engage.
Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Say hello to my little friend.
No, I am the Father.
I'd like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody.
What's up, savages? And welcome to the James Salazar Media Podcast, where you get your weekly dose of pop culture, politics, and futurism. Hi, I'm your host, James Salazar, a.k.a. The Media. What's new, everyone? Hope everyone's doing great. Hope you are about your plans, your dreams. I hope you're following through. Hope you're being consistent, right? I did a live podcast yesterday. Podcast from Boston. The live podcast yesterday. We weighed in. I lost 2 pounds in 1 month. You know, at least I'm going in the right direction. Those who do or do not know, been having some moving troubles. Moved to some place, and the place was condemned by the city. I had to get out in a week and trying to find a place. Put me in a little tailspin. Wasn't consistent with my workout or my diet during that time, and the weigh-in did not come out to what I wanted it to be, but it certainly came out to what I expected it to be. But I thought I was going to maintain or probably gain some weight, because there were some moments in there when I was moving all this stuff. I'm going to get something good to eat. You know, I just wasn't there. So that's neither here. But I feel renewed with a sense of optimism. I predicted that now that my plate is clean, I can focus on my diet and my workout, that I'm going to lose 10 pounds in 2 weeks. So we'll see if I follow through on that. But you always got to put yourself on the button in life. It's an amazing thing that if you give yourself a deadline, you will be surprised how you rise to the occasion. But if you don't give yourself a deadline, you realize you will be fascinated about how much you're able to procrastinate. It's true. It's damn true. So I got to push these next 2 weeks, and then I'll make another prediction after that, and keep on making, and not, and go for the big. Go for as if you were completely disciplined. That's the number you should put in. If I work out 5 days a week, add a little bit of we're going to be doing weightlifting and some HIIT training, and maybe do some hiking on the weekend, opera singing, and that's also a workout. In combination with a good diet, sticking to my intermittent fasting and my ketogenic diet, I should, with ease, drop about 5 pounds per week. Now, believe me, there will be a moment in time where as I lose more weight, this diet will be harder and harder to get results in. And you're going to have to change it up. But right now, there's a lot of weight to be lost to get down to the ideal weight by my birthday, October 13th. October 13th is my birthday. And I want to be at 220 pounds. I am 272. And that is 60 pounds in what are we? We are in April, so we're April. Let's just say we're in April 15th. We're not in April 15th, but this around this number, April 15th, May 15th, June 15th, July 15th, August 15th, September 15th, and then October 13th. And 6 months, I have to drop 60 pounds. That's 10 pounds a month. That is, boom, boom. That is 2.5 pounds per week. But we're going to try to knock out these 2 weeks with 10 pounds. Put some numbers in our favor. Yeah. So that's that. As you know, as the James Salazar Media podcast, we like to talk about futurism, like to inform and educate and make predictions on new exciting technologies coming our way. A lot of people are worried about artificial intelligence, and I try to keep up on that for the people who listen to this podcast faithfully. And the space race, not a race of space people, but all the corporations gearing up, aerospace, military, United States, different countries, all trying to go to space because that's where capitalism will go in the next 50 years. Capitalism will go. We'll be making the driving engine of our economy will be all our adventures into space, mining, new discoveries, building ships, and every company and every corporation that will be creating products for that adventure into space. It'll be a new thrive, and there are already humans who are preparing to do that. If the new economy will be for those who stay on Earth, of course. Well, the new economy. Let me finish my thought here. God damn it! One thought comes in, and it just takes over. Just gotta consistently stay on target. Stay on target. Just picked it on the surface. Porkins. You notice that in Star Wars, the fat dude in the X-Wing fighter, the fat guy is called Porkins. Come on, that's too on the nose, right? Steven Spielberg, great film director. But he has some campy moments for sure. Porkins. Okay, whatever. What was I talking about? Man's venture into space. All of capitalism. That will be the new economy. And every company that decides to create something or a product that has to help in the aid in going to space will be what will be hired for. And make sure right now, my friends, that if you are young, or you have children, if you're like 16, you have some spunk in you, learn how to code. I've seen people, I am an Uber driver, and thank God for Uber because it's got me out of tight circumstances financially. And even though sometimes I want to punch them in the nose because as they deal with our income, overall, they save my ass out of certain circumstances. So my overall feeling towards Uber is gratefulness. Man, I can't stay on target on the subject. I just feel like commenting on everything. So, I say all that to say this. There's people in an Uber driver, when they get into the customer and I start chatting them up, they're like, I seen like more than like 60 years old trying to become nurses. And let me tell you something. Nurses is a job that's going to be needed in space because people are going to get fucked up in space, It is a dangerous place to be. And someone's going to have to patch up and get those people back up and running when it comes into space, because you just can't call down you just can't call in Mike, who is day off, from Earth. It's going to be like a submarine. It's like a submarine. Those people will be stuck in those ships for a long period of time. And I say all that to say this. If you're 60 years old, you can still today start learning code, robotics. People are going to be, management skills will still be good. Creativity, design, architecture. We're not going to want... I know robots can do it and may do it better than us, but we're not going to hand over our art or our adventure to some fucking robots. We're not. They're going to aid us. They're not going to do it for us. Like Neil deGrasse Tyson, brilliant guy in certain things, but his critique says, why are we going to send humans and treasure out into space for them all to die when we can have robots do it? Because it's not the adventure. We're here for the adventure. We're not going to give or hand over our adventure. Damn dog, shut the freak up. I'm pausing to this damn dog. Shuts it in your mouth. Badges? You don't need no freaking badges. Shut up, bitch. There you go. Now, so if you're, so I said all that to say this, that you can still, at age 60, we're going to live much longer. You can still learn skills that will be ready and primed for the new future economy. Or you also can do what I do, is be a life coach. People will still need to be motivated. Oh, that's right, Neil deGrasse Tyson. Neil deGrasse Tyson says, why are we going to send people to space when we can do robots do it and then we save lives? Because, you know what? The fact of the matter is, we'll let the cowards stay home who don't want to do or risk their life. And let those who have that personality, the same kind of personality that created the countries that came across the desert lands and faced bears and the wilderness and Indians, Native Americans, and that mentality to go out into the space. We do not have to relinquish the adventure to robots, but they should aid in our adventure, for sure. So I disagree with him there. If man can't go, the drive to make it happen will die. Obviously. This is a no-brainer. And things like universal income might be for some. And welfare is sort of like universal income already for those who can't find work or don't want to participate in the workforce. And definitely we should curtail that and encourage everyone to play their part in society, do their fair share of work. As we expect rich people to pay their fair share of money, we should expect poor people to pay their share of work. I think that's only fair. I don't believe in. I do believe we should have a progressive tax, but not as big as we have today. But definitely, rich people need to pay more, and rich people have no problem paying more. It's just there's a point where their money, it's not worth it to open a business. If you choose to socially engineer society with their taxes, you tend to raise it to a point where they don't want to invest in the economy anymore. It's not worth it. They can just live off their post-tax money and wait for a different administration to come in, and which happens. This was why Donald Trump's era is with business prosperity, because he's kind to business. This is why the stock market went up when he got in, because he knew he was going to be kind to business. This is why the economy is doing so good, because people feel that they're not going to be attacked. Their money's not going to be overly taxed. This is a time to make extreme profit, and they're hiring people. And not only is there more jobs, the wages are higher. We're creating a more skilled labor force, and we need about, I don't know, I think it was 7 million more jobs to be filled. Some low skilled and some skilled, and we're fighting over the border, that whether we should secure it. I mean, the quickest way to get Mexicans a living wage that came over here that they can take back to the people is to secure the border. Find out how many jobs that they can fulfill, and let that many people come over, and let them go back or let them stay for the period of time where they can make the money. That's how it should be done. But a certain group of people don't want to be done that way. They want they don't want to track the number. They just want these people to come in, and then they want them to vote based on the idea that they can bring their whole family here and they can become a citizen, which the other party says, no, you shouldn't automatically just get this citizenship if you just make it across the line. Now, we should help people that need help. But, like I always say, we are the reason why Mexico doesn't change. We allow Mexico to send over its poor people that is supposed to meet and help and feed and clothe. And when they say send them to America, America, with its prosperity, can handle our poor. And we, with our crony capitalism and our oligarchy of families, we'll stay rich and not help the poor people of Mexico at all. Well, if we close our borders, guess what? They're going to have to do something about their poor, or their poor will overthrow them like they did in France. Mexico and all these Latin countries are France before the revolution. But if there was a nation state that was able to handle and take them in, and they don't have to fight a war, they can just go to another country and live there. A lot of Frenchmen would have done that. But they decided to stay in their country. This is why I'm so upset when someone comes over to this country and they're waving the Mexican flag. True Mexican patriots stay in Mexico and make change in Mexico. You abandoned Mexico to come to the United States because there is an acceptance that the United States is better. So you better be waving the American flag. You're waving the Mexican flag. Well, I don't think you should, because I think you abandoned it. You left it to fend for himself, and the true patriots stay in Mexico. Real Mexicans stay in Mexico and fight for change. Now, if you come along, I have no problem. I know why this whole country is full of immigrants. There's not one person. Even the Native Americans came over from Alaska. Everyone's an immigrant in this country. Everyone is an immigrant in this country sometime, some way, somehow. So it makes no difference. If you want to become American and you want to love America, I accept you with open arms, and once you get that citizenship, you're 100% American in my eyes and in the Constitution's eyes. See, I can go to France and I can get citizenship, but I can never be French. I can go to Britain and get British citizenship, but I'll never be a Brit, never be an Australian, never be an African. But I can come to America. You can come to America. And once you become a citizen, you are 100% American. This is what I believe about minorities. How can I be a minority when I'm 100% American like you? The word minority is talking about a certain part of me that's lesser than another. I'm Hispanic, not white. So in that sense, I am a minority, and we look at that, and that's what we focus on. No, we should focus on e pluribus unum. So many, we are one, and we're one America, one American. We have two heritages. The one that you were born from where your family came from, and the second heritage is the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence and the Revolution. That's our second heritage, and freedom and equality. Very preachy today. Don't mean to be. I always mean to be. If you get me preaching, you get me started. It's hard to get me started because I'm usually, when I was young, and my friends know this. You say something that I disagree with, I'll tell you why you're wrong really quick. Now, I've gotten older, and it takes a while for me to get up and say something. People ask me questions, and I'm like, what? Whatever. But if you push me against the corner, I'll come out like a badger. Fucking badger. Whatever. I digress. So how we got there is that the new economy is going to be in space. And people need to, if your children, get them learning code, get them, if they're going to join a military, join the Air Force, because that's where the new Space Force is going to come out of. Code, robotics, mining, space mining is going to be new. It's going to be all kinds of stuff. We're in a brave new world, people. Brave new world. So I wanted to take this time to talk about, as I told you, which I started this whole monologue based on the idea that I do talk about politics, pop culture, like, whatever, like MMA, sci-fi movies, stuff like that, and futurism, and I went on my diatribe on futurism, but I wanted to talk about my belief system. Belief is everything. As a life coach, we already know that if there's something, if you're not following through, there's a belief, an underlying belief that's overruling your discipline and consistency. It's true. It is true. And how you see yourself is a forerunner, for reason why you do or do not do something with success or follow through. Values and belief systems. So I'm going to go through all my belief system, and I think systematically. There's a reason why I believe that, and it's like a pyramid. And the foundation of that pyramid builds all the way up to certain ideas of being a finisher, why I believe that life is valuable, why I believe abortion's wrong, why I believe certain things in life. And they're always because of the foundation beliefs where, they're built upon. And the very first peg in that, the very first brick, or the first foundation is, why is there something rather than nothing? The big question. Why is there something rather than nothing? And what I personally believe, that God created something. And this is why we're here. Now, I'm not going to talk about today what kind of God that is or who he is. I'm not going to talk about the Bible, even though the first thing I'm going to say that in the beginning, God is where Western Judeo culture is the first brick, the cornerstone of Western civilization. So let's get into it. Why there's something rather than nothing? Now, this subject has been debated with philosophers, theologians, atheists, scientists, and it's still one of the most prevalent questions that we have yet to answer. And the scientists are trying to answer this question by with a theory of everything, with a unifying theory that explains the universe to us, and what they believe will explain away the need for God as a one of the answers, or the possible answers. Philosophers, they never really want to put their finger down on that answer. Most of them believe it's possible God, or the unified theory of everything. But this, and philosophically, for philosophers, they really feel that God and science are just one part of the equation. And I tend to agree with that. And but ultimately, I believe there is a sentient, the ultimate sentient being who created everything. And this being has been and always will be. He is unmade. He has no beginning. He is uncreated. He's always been. Now, let me make my first statement. Everything that has a beginning was created. But not everything that exists has a beginning, or needs to have a beginning. So we have two possibilities: eternal universe or eternal God. Now, people believe in this thing called the cycle of creation. If everything has to have a creation, then who created God? So let's be clear about that. Whether the universe is eternal or God's eternal, it is a dumb question to ask the uncreated when it was created, when the unmade when it was made. If you can think of an eternal universe not being created, then you can think of a God being uncreated. They both has to stand up to the same scrutiny. One belief is not harder than the other. It's just the proof of it. So, either one of them is uncreated. Some people believe the universe, some people believe God. But it implies in the title that to ask the uncreated to explain this creation, it's a dumb question. Because not everything that exists needs to be created. Only things that have a beginning need to be created. And we have two choices of that. That is God and the universe. So let's review and change the word for created to cause. Cause and effect. You cause something, there's an effect. You do something, there's an effect. Not everything happens separated from anything else. Because there's nothing in this world that's not been caused by something else. Either been created or caused, or a continuously reaction to an original cause. And our in time and space is from the Big Bang. Everything in the universe is caused from the Big Bang. If we rewind it all the way back to your picking to your nose and the girl next to you seeing you do that, and she's saying, "Ew, gross." The effect of that, she ain't dating you, and she thinks you're gross. That all came from the Big Bang. Okay? Simplified. Cause and effect. But not everything that exists needs a cause. But everything that has a beginning has a cause. The uncaused cause is God or the universe. They don't need to be caused. They are the originator of all causes and effects. They are uncreated, unbeginninged. Everything that has a beginning must have a cause and must be created. But not everything that exists needs to have a cause or a beginning. And we only have two choices for that. Either the God, the concept of God, or the universe. So, to buckle down what we're trying to say, we must first, to go on with this, we must break down the arguments of which is more plausible, an eternal God or an eternal universe. So we're left with two options. Either universe is eternal or God's eternal. Now, God has deliberately hid himself so he can be sought after. So you're not going to see him in the sky. You're not going to see him in space. There's no roadmap physically to heaven that we can take a car or a rocket ship. It's in a different dimension, for lack of a better word. And God hides himself so he can be sought after. I mean, everybody would be worshiping God if God was sitting on the throne in, say, like Australia. If heaven was in Australia and we saw him there, as plain as day as Donald Trump, would we disobey as much as we are? Would we choose? It wouldn't be a choice. It's like, oh yeah, well, is there a God? Well, yeah, he lives in Australia. His kingdom is in Australia. Of course, there's a God. But what do I need to know for? Okay, he's there. It takes no faith. Faith pleases God. And so God hides himself. So the only way we can determine this subject, what we're left with is with science and philosophy and theology to look at the universe, which we can see and measure with our limited ability, whether it's eternal or not. And the first argument against an eternal universe is scientific. Is the law. It has to do with the law of thermodynamics. The first law is everything's made up of matter, and that matter, according to the second law of thermodynamics, that the universe is running out of stable energy. So if the universe is running down, it cannot be eternal. It would have completely run down by now. While you can never run out of unlimited amount of energy, it does not take forever to run out of limited amount of energy. Hence, the universe must have a beginning. Also, the universe, if we're going to use a clock analogy, the clock analogy is that if whatever was rounded up, whatever's been winding down, which we see in the first two laws and we see in nature, had to be wound up. And if it had to be wound up, it had a beginning. And anything that has a beginning has to be created. And if it has been created, it's not eternal. Are you following me here? It's like an unlimited gas tank, right? You never have to stop. But the universe gas tank, if you look at the gauge, I don't know if we're in the middle, but scientists know we're either towards the end or towards the beginning. I don't know what we are, but we know that the universe is flying apart because through the momentum of the Big Bang. And it's going to rip itself apart into some big freeze where the energy and the radiation and the light of the universe will peter out. And anything that peters out cannot be eternal. Some people believe it's self-winding. But there's no proof. We don't see that anywhere. It is a theory that there's some believe, which we have no proof of, that once the universe will expand for a certain amount and then come back together to a single point and then explode again into the universe and have another, and whatever happens again. But we don't see that anywhere. As far as we can see with our eyes, and that is testable, that the energy of the universe is burning out. And the momentum of the Big Bang will stretch the universe so far out that there'll be no more light, no more radiation, no more energy, and it'll just have a sad and quiet death. So, grim view, and there's people who believe that the universe will die and peter out. And it had a beginning. But there's millions and millions and trillions and an unlimited amount of universes. And in that way, the universe is eternal. There's an infinity amount of realities, very close to ours, with very subtle differences, to major differences. So, if we look at the complexity of the universe, what is likely, and there's people who believe that the universe in its eternalness creates reality through random processes. By sheer luck, we came to be what we are today. And the idea that the earth and the world and us are just big mistake. And it's an illusion of complexity. Never mind that there are laws set in the universe. Laws that are discoverable as we grow as a species created by God. As our knowledge grows, we will discover more truths and more laws about the universe. That the universe is like a puzzle. And we expect certain pieces to fit in as our knowledge grows. There's nothing random about science and how we look at the universe. That the universe looks more like a great idea than a mistake. That it is that 1 and 1 equals 2 is not a mistake. This is how God wanted it to be. Now they're saying, and the idea, the likelihood that a disordered universe would produce an ordered universe. It's like having like a 1,000 card decks, taking out all the jokers, putting one in there, shuffling it 100 times. One joker and 1,000 decks of cards. There's no shuffling it up, placing it on the table, and on the very top, you flip over, and the joker's on top. This is what they want us to believe. And because they believe in many worlds and many theories, that there's a variety of different realities, and we just happen to be in the one that has order. And we don't know any difference because we're not in the other realities where it's not ordered. And if you saw all the different and millions of infinity of different realities and worlds that don't come out with order, you will know that we are unique and that randomly we came with an earth of orders, but with that many infinite chances, it was bound to happen. It doesn't need a God to be created. Sooner or later, random processes and infinity put together, you will eventually get a universe of order. Now, if I say, and so anything is possible. Anything is possible in any of these universes. And to them I pose, well, couldn't we just be the universe that needs a God to exist? And they always say, well, no. Well, you said anything can happen. Well, maybe this universe is the only one where God exists. Well, we need a God to exist. Is that not possible? According to you, if everything's possible, that should be possible. And therefore, there's a God. And we don't know about those other places, nor can we prove it, and nor can we get to them. So why bother looking at them? Why bother trying to worry about them when, with all those infinite choices, this is a world that needed a God to exist? And therefore, out of those millions of realities who don't need a God to exist because they're random and chaotic. So, what the hell is that sound? So I say all that to say this. There's a lot of faith that goes into this many world theory, this string theory. And they haven't proven it. And they hold on to it tightly. And it conveniently explains away the order of the universe and the complexity of the universe, saying that we just happen to be the Joker. And I'm saying, no. If you look at the universe, everything's caused by a cause. And there's nothing in the universe that we see that we're in today that says that it's eternal. It says the exact opposite. So we're left with a choice of an eternal God. We're left with a choice of an eternal God. Now, another critique about the universe as being eternal has to do with time. And this is more philosophical. Is that there cannot be an infinite number of moments before today. Philosophers argue there could not have been an infinite number of moments before today. Otherwise, we would never would have come to which is this. By definition, the infinite can't be traversed. It has no end and no beginning. But since the moments before today have been traversed, and we have arrived at today, it follows that it must be finite number of moments before today. Time has a beginning, but if space-time universe has a beginning, it must have been created or caused. Now, this is kind of hard to wrap your mind, because you would say, we're just in the moment of infinity. And it's understanding infinity, what it truly means. Because infinity can't be sequential. God does not live in time. So, the past, present, and the future are the same to God, because he lives outside of time. He created time. Okay? God looks at creation, the universe, much like a detailed picture that he knows every ounce of. This is how he sees time. And in the picture, already created for him, you can't say to him, where are you? Where is time in this picture? Where are they at in this time in this picture? What moment are they in this picture? The picture is just a picture. Nor does God create like a painter. You have to start with the background and start creating the trees and all that stuff. That's not how God creates things. That's how we create things with paint. But the end result is much like a picture. And time, the way it works, is sequential for us. But God does not live in time. This is what we don't understand. And the past, present, and future are the same to God. God sees them all together. But how we see it is sequential. So, infinity, and this is why people don't get that we have a free will. Because they look at how we have to do things to create something. We have a beginning and an end. Right? And if you made a picture and you drew it of a landscape, there's the beginning and the end. And now that you see it, you know the outcome. And you would say the people in those paintings have no free will. No, but God created the time to be sequential. That does not affect him in any way. And that we live in this sequential time and our choices, and we are part of creating the canvas. Though God knows the outcome, we still have choices. Because God cannot, in his nature, not know it. Because he doesn't deal with time like we have to. So we look at the universe. And it's time and space created by God that is sequential. And that's how God made it. God is outside of that, looks at time in a different way. Looks at time in an infinite way, which we cannot know or comprehend. But in that infinite way he looks, when he created us, it allows us to live in sequential and allows us to have choice, even though he sees it as eternal. Just because God sees it as eternal and may know the outcome doesn't mean that we do not shape it for ourselves. I believe in free will. And I believe not only free will, there's free will, but I also believe nature plays a big part, and culture plays a big part in how we choose things. It's a combination of things, but I need you to understand how the universe works. It works for us. It has no comparison of how God is, the ultimate existence. This is what he created. I hope this helps or may confuse you even more. And I understand that. But God's infinite and we are not. And we cannot understand the infinite. And trying to look at our sequential time and space on how... See, because if you made the universe, if you made the universe a painting, a map, there's no free will for your creation. It is how you made it. But God is different. God has made a universe that is sequential. where we have free will, where the natural processes of nature and God's sovereignty of his natural laws play out. And God's able to be eternal and live in eternity and let us have free will. It's confusing and doesn't make sense, but you cannot look at it in a way humans create. That's the only way humans would be able to create it, but not God, not the infinite reality. God has all infinity to answer the millions of questions, but just the idea that one prayer after another is not how God's reality works. It's how our reality works. There's a million prayers that go up a day, and God has to answer each one of them. No, God doesn't have to do anything that consigns or works with time. He created time for us. He does not work in time. That's what an infinite God is. It's absurd to believe there's an infinite number of moments. The temporal world has a beginning, an infinite number of real parts of time passing in succession and exhausting one after another appears to be the evidence that we see. So, I say that I'll say all this, and then that's always my statement. And so you might ask, so what is the universe then? What is it made up? What we know, if we're going to concede that there is a God, then we are not made up of the eternal, nor are we made outside of the eternal, but we're more in the mind of God. That's closely what the Bible says, and it makes sense to me. I know you have daydreamed, and we're like God in a finite way. You've daydreamed and you've created scenarios and stories in your mind. Some people are able to put it down paper or on screenplays and they entertain us. But those worlds are real to you in your mind. We exist in the mind of God. We are held up and put together by the thoughts of God. When God said, "Let there be life," I believe he said it in his head. The universe is in God's head. And there might be, you never know, there might be multiple universes in God's head. I don't know. God can do whatever he wants. We're supposed to be concerned with the universe that we have and the choices we have to make. This is all philosophical. But the Bible doesn't say that God made something out of nothing, like grabs something outside of himself, nor did he grab a part of himself and create something. So I know these ideas are hard to comprehend, and but they're ideas nonetheless. And I hope this helped you understand the basic concept of why God exists and why we think that the answer of the universe being eternal is not a good one. But all the answers that they do have for an eternal God are all things they can't prove. So at the end of the day, it take the same amount of faith that it takes to believe in God is the same amount of faith you have to put in to say that the universe is eternal, because all the reasons why it's eternal are things that are theories that have not yet proven. So if you have any questions or if you think I'm full of shit, hey, about anything I said, put it in an email at jamessalazarmedia@gmail.com. Follow me on any of my social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube channel, Pinterest. Just type in James Salazar Media. I should come up. For the next coming two podcasts, we're going to be doing headlines from the world of futurism, and we're going to review Shazam, Endgames, Infinity War, the new Hellboy movie, and probably Game of Thrones premiere, and we should be about the third one in by the time we do that, so we get a good understanding of where it's gonna end. So stay tuned to all that. I hope to bring in some friends for that who like what I like those shows. So yeah, until then, my friends, the storms of life come against you and you find yourself on your knees. Pick up your head, stand tall, and say what my sensei Jack Byrne always says: give me your best shot. Strike the music.